Eta, you know what it is. It's another week. And of course, we are in our comfortable brown chairs where we have the pleasure of sitting down with a legend of South African football. We've had them all. But we still have a whole lot more to be having a conversation with. This time around, I'm in the company of somebody who's won an Africa Cup of Nations, the first that this country has had. Somebody who, of course, has won many a COSAFA Cup titles. Somebody who has taken her country to an Olympic Games. I'll do you one better. Somebody who's taken her country to a FIFA World Cup. I'm not done. Somebody who's taken her country to the knockout stages of a FIFA World Cup. The first coach to do that in South Africa. Should I continue? Somebody who is now being referred to as Doctor. Yes, I'm in the company of Dr. Desiree Ellis. Thank you so much for coming through. So what do we call you? What do we call you? Wait, are you doctor? Are you coach? Are you award-winning doctor, coach Desiree Ellis? Which one do you pick on what day?
I'm just Desiree, The doctor title takes something getting used to. I was at an event and Natasha Tickler was saying, doctor, and I just kept walking and I realized, oh my goodness, she's talking to me.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I said, I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to it, but some people call me Dr. C, obviously for Dr. Coach, but I'm Coach Des.
What does that mean to you, Coach, that title? What does it mean to be recognized by the CPUT? And I think it's just the CPUT recognizing you as an institution, but I think they speak on behalf of the country, that here's a woman that has done what no other woman has done. And dare I say it, we're not even going to put a gender to it, has done what no coach in this country has done. Here is an honorary doctorate. Here's an honorary title for you. What does it mean to you? What does it signify? When Desiree Ellis looks at Desiree Ellis in the mirror, what do you see?
I was very emotional, to be honest. It was a long time coming because I got a call about a year ago and then nothing happened. And then 3 weeks before the event, I got another call. But I think what made it extra special was because my family was there. My family was there to celebrate it in my hometown. And the emotional part for me was I was getting a doctorate for sports management. But while I was sitting there and I saw these kids coming up when they graduated, and I saw the parents ululating and praising God and all of that, I realized how much it meant. The work that we put in, sometimes we put that work in not for the awards and the rewards. And I always say to anyone out there, always be your best because you never know who's watching. And me working in a team environment is very difficult because if the team does well, people like us and players get those awards and rewards. But it's never about us. It's always about the team first. But if the team doesn't do well, then I'm on the red carpet. So, I just think it's for all the work that I put in. But the staff that work with me, I sort of dedicate that to the players and the staff because without that, I wouldn't get those awards and rewards. But I just say thank you to God for giving me the opportunity and the talent to be able to do that. Because in the past, you did all of this without getting paid. And now I'm doing something, getting paid for something that I really, really love and really enjoy.
I've been alive for about 3 decades. I'm not going to specify the age. I don't want people to disrespect me. But I've been alive for all of 3 decades. And I've followed football for at least 2/3 of that time. You are the first female footballer I got exposed to.
Wow.
When I really started paying attention to football in the mid to late 90s, you became the first female footballer I got exposed to. So essentially it was, oh, the girls play football as well? That's nice. And then you were that lady who was short with short dark hair as well, I think it was at the time. Jersey number 6 in the national team jersey. And I was like, oh, she's even the captain. Now, who are these other ones? So you were the first one. Portia Modise became the other one. Do you think you've deserved this kind of recognition all this time? That you were the captain of the national team, probably one of the most successful captains we've ever had at the national team, the most iconic and notable captain we've ever had in the national team. Do you feel that this recognition that you've gotten now, especially with the doctorate, has been a long time coming? You've deserved it for a long time, or everything happens when it should?
that's what I believe also. Everything happens when it should, because I'm not here by default. I got baptized in an incubator, premature 7 months. So they called my mom in and my father in and said, listen, you need to baptize. We don't think she's going to make it. So everything that happens is a blessing for me. But back in the day when we were playing, there was practically nothing. We got this one T-shirt that we used to train in, go back home, come back. If you don't come back, somebody else wears that T-shirt. I mean, I played in the national team for 10 years and I only picked up 32 caps. Now you almost get 16 in 1 year. And then, not in my wildest imagination could I have thought that it would end up or would come to this, where I'm now the head coach of the team and with all the achievements that I've had and the team together. But what you put back in then, you don't realize that the sacrifices that you put in, yes, there's failures along the way, but the sacrifices that you put in is the success of tomorrow. Because I can go back to a story when I first made the national team, I lost my job. After that, I got a job again. And then I got the opportunity to be an ambassador for the World Cup. And that was amazing. And then when the World Cup was over, what next for Desiree? And I thought, do I go back into corporate? Or do I continue working with what? And I worked for an organization called Stars in the Eyes, got a stipend. And then, I get the opportunity to go do a UEFA license. But 4 months away from home, having a problem with paying off the house, now I've got to decide, do I go do that UEFA license? Maybe lose my car because I have to pay bills. Maybe lose my house. My house is already gone to the bank, already spoke about, listen, I can't afford to pay the full amount. Can I make an arrangement? So that sacrifice that I did back then is a success of today. But if I had done that, my life might not have turned out the same way. So there's little things along the way that you do that you look back and say, wow, that was the turning point. If I had done that, I wouldn't be here where I am. Because probably would have lost the house, probably would have lost the car without a full-time job. So, the reward you get is what you put in. People always say, if you put in the hard work, you get the results. And it comes with that.
You asked gents, why football? And a lot of them will say to you, because I am my family's last hope. I am the guy that if I don't make it, my family name will just fizzle into nothing. We will never be known, and our heritage just dies with me. So I have to make it. It's not about playing the game because you love it, playing the game because you enjoy it, playing the game because you want to create a legacy in the game. You're getting into the game and playing the game out of survival. For a lot of South African kids, what was Desiree Ellis's reason for getting into football?
I love the game. Without a shadow of a doubt, from a very young age, even though I was told I wanted to be a boy because I wanted to play football. And all I wanted to do was to play the sport I loved. Yes. And my late father was probably my biggest critic. He would tell me after every game, it wasn't good enough. I'd go sleep at night, cry myself to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I get up. I want to do better. I want to do better. So he was my biggest critic, but he was always also my biggest supporter. And obviously when he passed on, life changed because now we had to fend for ourselves. And getting into the game of football at the time, we all wanted to become professional.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And that's why you get a job, play football and get a job. And we talk about black tax, but we all do it. My family at home, I take care of them. I take care of myself. And I honestly can't say if I wasn't involved in football where I would be right now and where they would be right now, because it has opened so many doors, but it also helped financially. And I think when you look at it, we all go into that. I went into it because I love the game, but later on it became that I needed to be involved in the game to be able to survive because, you have, my mother's a pensioner, my brother lost his job due to COVID and etc. So you do what you can.
Does that
you
change,
do what you can.
Does that change your mentality, coach? Does that change your mentality? You go into it because you love it. You go into it because you know you have the talent. But then when you're in it, it now becomes, again, a matter of survival because you need the paycheck. Does that change how you view the sport of football? Do you, when you're now doing it because you need to, change how you saw it when you got into it because you loved it?
Not at all. I'm just blessed. I'm getting paid still for what I love doing. So my passion, my mentality hasn't changed. I still do it because I feel I can make a difference. I still do it because I love it. I still do it, and I'm blessed to get paid for it. In the past, when I was at a club, you would use your own money, out of your own pocket, be involved in the club, drive thousands of miles to get boots and stuff for players. That's what we did, and now I'm getting paid for it, and I'm still able to make that little difference here and there through the foundation that I started, and that started through COVID because I saw the need for that, and I'm not just doing it for the money, but I'm doing it because I love it as well.
Player or coach? Let's leave the successes. Let's leave the successes. Let's leave all of it. Player or coach? What gives you the greatest thrill? What has given you the greatest thrill? What, when you look back and you think to yourself, in my next life, this is what I want to do still?
Oh, I must say it's a difficult answer. I love the game without a shadow of a doubt, to be on the field and play the game and be able to, test myself against someone, because they see this short person coming and they look at you. And Kabuzita always used to say, you will see what happens next, And then just to have that enjoyment, but we can't play forever, And I think going into the coaching space, I've always been someone that, cares about people. And I think you can't be a coach and not care. But I really enjoy this too, because now I'm making a different kind of difference in everybody's lives by creating opportunities through being in the national team. So I'd have to say currently coaching.
You've played here at home in England and Ireland. You've done it as a player. I mean, again, I must say, and I'm sure a lot of South Africans will agree with me and resonate when I say you're one of the first notable faces of women's football. You were the face of women's football when it started getting the attention it deserved. But as a player, what has been your greatest regret? If you were to go back to your playing days, what would you hope that yourself and the powers that be could help you do differently?
I think we didn't play as often as we should have. I think it was still very small back then. We'd only play when there's a competition. And I think for the group of people that we were, players that we were, I think at the time we deserved more. It was a fantastic group of players. In the beginning, the Achilles Atoles, Kabuzitas, Joanne Solomons, all of those players in the beginning. Portia obviously came in 2000. But the group of players that was there, I we didn't play often enough. We obviously won first trophy only in, at the COSAFA Cup in 2002, way back. And obviously, the other thing is not going to a major international tournament with that group. The dream back then was going to the World Cup, but we always got beaten badly by Nigeria because they were on a different level at that time. But not playing often enough, not having more league matches. We just had one league. Yeah. Yes, there was the interprovincials, which was fantastic, where you could test yourself, but just not getting that opportunities back then, what the players get now. But I don't actually have a regret. It's just a disappointment, because would my life have turned out the same? Probably not.
It's a what-if situation in this
Probably
case.
Not, yeah.
You're still coaching, but maybe let's take it back 2016. From 2016 to now, what regrets are there? What do you wish could have happened differently?
I think if I have to look back, I think the one thing that was really disappointing was losing to Botswana, to be honest. After that high of going to the World Cup and then coming, and I still look at that game, I have the clips, and I think, how did we not score that day? We had so many opportunities. How did we not score that day? A
lot of South Africans thought that was the beginning of the end of Banyana Banyana and the downward spiral, that now it's whatever it is that Desiree did, whatever it is Vinapal started when she started it, it's now starting to fall apart. Little did we know.
Sometimes you want to win all your games.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens ever. The top team loses to the bottom team. Leicester City, perfect example. Everybody keeps saying, next game. They ended up winning the league after almost the year being relegated. We just took that and I said, this is not going to happen again. I remember in 2014 when we went with Coach Vera to Namibia and we lost to Nigeria in the semi-finals, and we then lost that third place playoff against Ivory Coast, where we should have probably have won that game. And we're just sitting at the table like, what happened? And I had that T-shirt and I said, we're going to use that, going to 2018 WAFCON. We didn't win the final, but that motivated us. And not winning the final that year and not qualifying for the Olympics that year against Botswana, we made sure that we didn't want that to happen again. And I remember us going to the 2022 to WAFCON, and it was during a difficult period, COVID and everything else. And then Tembi gets injured. And I'm thinking, to the country, when you look, everybody says, this is it. Yeah. This is it. But this group of players, was so connected and so determined. I remember speaking to a group of the leaders and saying, what do you want out of this? And Jermaine says, we want to win this. And I say, there's a matter of qualifying for the World Cup first. She said, we win it, we qualify. So now we're on the same page. And we just kept everything together and in us, even during the COVID situation. And then we win the WAFCON. And I think that was the craziest moment. If you see all the celebrations, it was tears of joy, but it was also tears of thinking back to all those that have come before. I remember Amanda Dlamini saying, it's personal.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree it's personal, because if you look at all the work, the players that have come before, the coaches that have come before, and we sometimes forget, Coach Mkonza is the first one that took us to Olympic Games. We forget that, and it doesn't start when Desiree comes here. It started way back. All those people that put in, and all that added to where we are now. And whoever comes after, will continue to do the same thing, but not going to the Olympics, I think, is the biggest regret for me. Not regret, more disappointment.
Yeah. You talk about coaches and people that have plowed and poured into this game, the women's game in South Africa, that we don't talk a lot about. Virapal, what has that woman done for this country's women's football? And what has this woman done for you?
People have no idea. I'm not saying that the coaches that have come before did not do anything. But I can honestly tell you now, if I was a player under Vera Kapau, I would have been a world-class player. Very meticulous, very detailed, didn't take nothing for chance. I remember we were in camp during the Olympic campaign, and we couldn't travel home because we had to pay for ourselves, but people were allowed to go a weekend. And I think the biggest, I won't say mistake, but the biggest thing was going there. We sat that whole weekend. We had over 100 games of our opponents going to the Olympic Games. We sat and watched against very strong, mediocre, not average, and so forth. We watched games that whole weekend. That's how detailed she was. And for me, when you're standing at the front post, there's a reason why you're standing at the front post. Where you're standing there, there's a reason, because everything that she did was planned. But just the knowledge that she gave, I think that's second to none. I still speak to her often.
Yeah.
I still speak to her often. She still send me messages. I still send her messages because of what she's brought to me. A whole new aspect, a whole new outlook in football. There's many things that you learn from other coaches, but this was completely different. A woman coming in here and putting this in place. And I remember I have this video at home where we started. We had a small-sided game. Everybody runs there. And then we're at the Olympics in 2016, and you see how quickly we do it. And you see, look at the difference. So we haven't changed anything, but we've just carried on, because it didn't make sense to change anything. But I don't think the country realizes the input and the impact Vera's made on the game and on us as coaches.
Would 2019 and 2022 have happened if the South African Football Association had never hired that woman?
I don't think so, to be honest. We have the talent in the country, but we just needed that little elevation, that person that has knowledge of being in the rest of the world, that person that could change things, that could take us to a different level. And I can categorically say that Vera changed everything, not just for me, but for football in the country.
See, there's always this thing, Coach, that South Africans are always criticized for the only time your ear opens and your brain functions is when an European coach comes here, and that's the only time you want to listen. You'll never listen, you'll never listen to a short colored woman because you think that she doesn't know anything, even though she literally played this game when nobody was wanting to watch this game. But they come with a great deal of knowledge. They come with a different aspect of football compared to what we are used to here in South Africa. So with Vera Pauw, did what she brought trickle down to you guys as coaches, trickle down to you, trickle down to Tina Sonke Mbuli, trickle down to all of the coaches that we've got in our structures, your Simpiwe Dludlus as well. Does her legacy live on among the coaches in South Africa, or is it just left with you?
I think so, because there was a group of coaches. It was myself, Coach Shalene, Coach Cheryl was there, Coach Anna was there, Tracy Pepper was there, Coach Shorty played under Coach Vera, Janine played under Coach Vera, and Janine will always say that she's learned so much. I think you cannot take the knowledge for granted, but it's what you do with the knowledge, because you can have that knowledge and not use it. And we also want to be our own people in our own right and do certain things a little bit differently. But I've never forgotten some of the stuff. I think when she came with this new conditioning aspect, we always used to put the cones down and just run. Coach Vera came and all of a sudden we were not doing those things anymore. Yeah. It was conditioning with the ball and all of those things. And, I just continued further with that. And when I started working, I got people that that I felt could add value, technical team that knew that this is what I wanted. And, Coach Tina in her own right, this purpose, which is amazing, with qualifying with UWC, but in her own right, she's a top coach. She's a top coach. She knows women's football. If you talk about a player, Coach Tina will tell you, or she'll say, Coach, have you seen this player? So in her own right, she understands the game, she knows the game, etc. But it's what you take with that knowledge that you got from Coach Vera and how you turn it around, and also have your own little way of doing things. And that's what I've tried to do.
Without making you sound like you are, knocking on the doors of retirement, but you are now the elder in South African women's football. You are essentially seen as the custodian. You're the one who now has that, that bird's eye view of everything that is happening. To an extent, everybody's now answerable to you, because they are the ones that need to feed you with the quality players that you put in a national team to take us far. You've got a Tina Sonke Mbuli who has dominated varsity football now, and she's made history by becoming the first South African woman to qualify for the camp. She's done what you haven't even done, Coach.
Exactly.
But we'll get to that. First South African woman to qualify for the Champions League. Then there's still also Jerry Chabalala, the coach of Mamelodi Sundowns. Then you've got Coach Shorty, who's also there as well. All of this talent, what does it say about the state of South African football? Coaching talent and the playing talent. Where are we as South African women's football?
I think we're not where we want to be, but it's a step in the right direction.
Where is that?
We need to professionalize the game.
Hey, I didn't want to bring it up before you did. Let's go.
We need to. The World Cup has showed what we're capable of, but you still have players having 9 to 5 jobs. You still have, if there's a midweek game, teams going with reduced squads because they can't get off at work. Sometimes it's a game over the weekend, they can't get off at work, so players have reduced squads. Can you imagine? Because you look at Sundowns. Sundowns are a perfect example. They wake up in the morning, they go and train, they play. Can you imagine if you had the rest of the league doing that? Can you imagine where we would be? I've been to many tournaments. We have amazing talent coming through, But unfortunately, sometimes players who's just been at the university now says, now that I've graduated, I have to go work. You see, so we urge the sponsors to come on board. I mean, Cecil has been amazing. When we're successful, you remember the Amagluk?
I do.
That was such a successful project.
Yeah.
But yet they were brave. I think they were brave because no one wanted to come into women's football. They were brave to put their money where their mouth is. And now you talk about 2 successive WAFCONs with the title, 2 successive World Cups with the last 16, numerous COSAFA Cups, numerous individual awards, numerous team awards. I mean, what more could a sponsor ask for? You know, so we need more corporates to come on board, but we need to professionalize the game. Otherwise, we're going to have the same conversation after the next World Cup.
Coach, you've got somebody who has played the game, who's been there, who's been in the trenches of women's football, who is now sitting in the offices. I know you are always of high praise for the Football Association, and rightly so, because what they've done for your career is indescribable. But are they doing enough to go out there and showcase? I mean, you shouldn't have to, because the whole world is watching what Banyana's doing, but still, go out to corporate and say, guys, we've got a WAFCON title. Banyana are the only senior national team to have qualified for the knockout stage of a FIFA World Cup, having only started playing it in 2019. We've got 2 World Cups under our belt. Our women's clubs are winning Champions Leagues back to back. Are Ms. Lida Munyapao and the association doing enough, in your opinion?
Look, I was part of a sponsorship forum. There were a lot of sponsors there. And I asked the question. I said to the sponsors, we've done our job. What more do we need to do? And I just think the team has been marketed enough. The team needs to be marketed more, because on the field, the job is done. But off the field, it hasn't been done. There needs to be more marketing around the team. And obviously, what do sponsors want? Bums on the seats.
Yeah.
And if you go to a national, international match, how many bums on the seats are there? So we still have a lot of work to do. But we can only do it together. And some sponsors are not brave enough to do that. And Sasol was brave enough to do that. And if more sponsors come on board, it's not just about Banyana.
Yeah.
It's also about professionalizing that league. Because like you rightfully said, you have Coach Jerry, who's done fantastic. You've got Coach Shorty, who's done fantastic with the under-17. Coach Tina, who's now won this COSAFA Champions League title, going to the Champions League, but has also run Sundowns close. You've got Coach Dunga, who's currently doing fantastic work with UJ. You've got Coach Maud there, who's doing great work at Tux, you know, and they contribute to what we have, because we can't do it alone. Yeah. We need them to do their work for us to be able to be successful. So you've got all of that. So there is that product there. But I think for us to go that next level, we need that to professionalize it. And professionalized, I mean by having a smaller league, because now the talent is this far across the league. But if you make the league smaller, you have the best playing the best every week. You saw Sundowns going to the USA. Yeah. And the first thing Coach Jerry said was the intensity. And I've been talking about that all the time. The intensity's got to be higher. You got to play quicker. And I was very impressed this past weekend with the UJ Mamelodi Sundowns game. But professionalizing the game and getting sponsors to come on board. And I think SAFA is doing their bit, but they can't do it alone. It's got to be a partnership. And hopefully more sponsors come on board.
You say bums on seats. Now, my bum is saying, if you want me to be on your seat, you need to give me the same kind of entertainment that a Soweto Derby does, that a Sundowns Chiefs or Sundowns Pirates does. Hell, that a Polokwane City and Chippa United game does in the Betway Premiership. You can't, because I mean, women don't play like men. Women don't bring the intensity that men do. And I posed the same question to Andy Lazamin, and she was like, come on, you are comparing apples and pears here. We do not, biologically, we don't have the same kind of strength, and we can't operate like men do. We are women, they are men. So you can't compare us. How do you change that mindset? How do you change my mind from looking at you guys and expecting from you what I get from the men?
You're not going to get the same intensity, but you're also going to get sometimes the same quality. Because if you just look at the past World Cup, if you did not see that pony, you would not know that it's females, because of the technical ability and the tactical ability and the way we play. When you look at Banyana over the last couple of years, I go back to the Aisha Buhari Cup. Just for example, and that was after COVID or during COVID. And that was when we saw our international players for the first time almost in 2 years, and how they just gelled in. Yeah. Now that is the type of football that we play. And if you look this past weekend, I was very impressed and I enjoyed it. And slowly but surely there are fans coming. But there's so many other things that people do. And they'll go out and buy a jersey of I don't know how many 100 rand. But they won't come and spend 20 rand or 30 rand or 50 rand to come to a women's game. And I think we have changed perceptions. We have changed the minds of many people. All we can do is continue playing the brand of football that we do, getting the results, and in that way, drawing more and more fans to the stadium. Because if you go to a Hollywood Bets League match now, there's much more people now and fans now than there used to be in the past. But it's a process. And if we professionalize the game, that will happen. And with Chiefs and Pirates, I think that will be huge because you'll have two big brands also coming on board. That will not only draw players, but that will also draw sponsorship coming on board. I think that will just take the game to a different level.
That's actually another thing I wanted to talk about. Do you feel like that's probably what is also stifling the growth of women's football, is that look at what the men can do at the FNB Stadium on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Just those two teams. They not only bring together a nation, but even the SADC region. You know, you've got Zimbabweans, Namibians, Botswana people also still through their TVs going crazy over that match. Now, if they moved all of that, you know, the black and white, the black and yellow, and they put it in the women's game as well, you reckon that Chiefs and Pirates women's team, a SuperSport United women's team, a Cape Town City women's team, the league would grow. The league would finally get that professionalization it deserves.
I absolutely think so. You look what Sundowns have done to the game.
Yeah.
And that's just one team. You know, they've made everyone else, pulled everyone else along with them. TS Galaxy has come on board.
Royal AM.
Royal Aim, made everybody, and probably the two biggest brands. There's no shadow of a doubt. Even though Mamelodi Sundowns men has won so many leagues, it's still the most popular brands. It's Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. If they had women's teams, I just think not just our football, but the fan base would shoot through the roof. That's what I think, because they love their teams. When you see Mamelodi Sundowns play, the fans are saying, I'm here this week, but next week I'm out in Durban. You know? So they're not only supporting the women's team, the men's team, but they're also supporting the women's team. So I just think our football will grow beyond the shadow of a doubt.
I think you've won more COSAFA Cup titles than any other South African national team coach. I may be wrong, but I seldom am wrong. You've taken us to a World Cup for the first time. You've taken us to the round of 16 of a World Cup for the first time. You've won the women's football's first AFCON. What do you regard to be your greatest success as the coach of the national team so far?
Oh, you've made that answer very difficult.
I just love asking difficult questions. I'm good at this.
You know, qualifying for the World Cup was big. Going to the round of 16 was bigger, but I have to say the WAFCON.
Really?
We've been to the final 5 times. I was part of that. I think the joy it brought to us in winning that, not just the joy it brought to us, but the joy it brought to everyone else. For me, that probably was one of our biggest achievements.
Coach, I'm sorry, but I want to put this into context for you. Maybe I'm not understanding this answer. And I hate comparing the two genders, but just for the purposes of national pride, the men's first World Cup was 98. Their second was 2002. Then, of course, we did host 2010. We're probably going to go to America in 26. Your first World Cup was 19, and your second was 2023.
Yeah.
Banyana Banyana are the first senior national team with only 2 World Cups under their belt to reach the knockout stages of a World Cup. 32-team World Cup. That's not your greatest moment as a head coach? You've done what no coach, even Carlos Alberto Pereira, who's won a World Cup, has never done.
Look, that was big. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And probably very difficult, as you said, for me to decide between that and something else. But when I look at the WAFCON, right, it came in a period where we hadn't played football for a while because of COVID.
Okay.
It came in a period where the last WAFCON, we got to the final, and the biggest disappointment there because we really played well in that tournament but didn't win it.
I think you beat Nigeria.
Yes.
Early in the tournament,
Yes.
only to go lose to them on penalties.
And we played I probably played the best football in that tournament. This time around, we looked at it and we said, okay, now we're going to look at it differently because this is how we're going to play. It being COVID, it being everything else, we needed to make sure that we get the mix right. We needed to make sure that we manage the players well because we wanted that medal that badly. And the way we went about it and having COVID in camp, I think that was really scary because now we have the small group of players training and they're all looking at us and I'm saying to them, guys, this is why we're here. This is why we chose you. And probably that was the best training session. Then losing Tembi, in the tournament. And Jermaine stepping up after having not been available for 2 years due to visa complications. And that's why for me, in that context, that is probably for me the biggest thing. When I look at videos, when I look back at that moment, when I hear the songs, my mother's prayer, it just takes me back to that unbelievable moment because we never slept.
Yeah.
On the way back, Bambanani would say, champions don't sleep. Champion coach don't sleep.
Yeah.
And when she went to sleep on the plane, we just said, don't wake her, please. But for me, in that context, that for me is the biggest.
Is the Banyana Banyana team of 2019 to 2023 the greatest generation this country has ever seen?
I think so, yes. We had a great team when I was playing. But this group of players have just been amazing.
Take away the awards and achievements and everything.
No,
just purely off of...
This group of players was absolutely amazing without taking away all of those things because the work they put in that the people don't see. When people are having the Christmas holidays, these players are putting in that work because we have a game in January.
Coach, what is the world saying about us now? You've gone to these gala dinners, these award ceremonies. You've spoken to, Coach Veerman. You've spoken to the best coaches in the world, who've seen who you are, who felt who you are, who now respect you. What are they saying about us? What are they saying about women's football? Yeah.
I think even though we don't have a professional league, and that is amazing to them, that we don't have this professional league, but yet we're challenging them. We're ranked number 15 in the world, but the top teams want to play us. That's what it says. We're playing England. We've played the South American champions. Now we're playing the European champions. We've played the world champions. We've played all these countries. That's what it says, that we offer that.
Yeah.
And we played the Netherlands just before we went to the WAFCON. And I said to the coach, we haven't played in months. Why do you want to play us? He said, because you play that ball behind so well, but you hold on to the ball so well. And we struggle to get to work with that ball behind, but we also struggle to get the ball off the team. So that is why we wanted to play you. And even though when a lot of the players were not available, we needed that game, so that is what it says about our football, that the top countries want to play us. And not because they don't have anyone else. It's because they want to play us. Who would have thought that we'd play the likes of the USA 3 times already? Who would have thought that would have happened? Who would have thought we've played Sweden, we've played the Netherlands, we played Japan, we've played France. And we played France in 2016.
Yeah.
So the best countries in the world want to play us because of who we are and what we offer. And the World Cup has shown that. I think when I look back at the World Cup, we could have won that.
The World Cup?
We could have won that. When I look back, I say, when you look at the results in the World Cup, you couldn't determine an outcome because who would have thought that the USA would have been knocked out? Who would have thought that Japan would have beaten Spain 4-0? And then, who would have thought that? Because each and every game was different. You look at all the games, you couldn't say that team or that team was going to be the winner. And you plan and prepare for each and every game. And we'll sit back and we would say to ourselves, in a couple of years' time when we're sitting back and we're reminiscing, we'd say, we had a chance like everyone else.
Okay, so every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Nations that are serious about their programs, I'll use America and China and, nobody respects them anymore, Russia, but top nations in the world, every 4-year Olympic cycle, they start planning for it as soon as the Olympics end. So now America's thinking LA, China's thinking LA. They've got a goal in mind, which is as many gold medals in 4 years' time. How do you guys operate? By what kind of cycle do you operate? Because in between World Cups, you've got WAFCONs, right? So what are you working towards? Because if you're saying that we could have won last year's World Cup, that should be something that you would have planned for in 2019 after that competition. So that competition teaches you how it rolls on the world stage. You go into 2023 a lot more prepared, and then the result is a knockout stage. So what now are you thinking 27? What's the plan? Is there a plan? Are you thinking 27? Are you thinking Morocco defending your title?
It's step by step because you cannot think yes, you think that far ahead, but you've got to put in that stages in between. So the next thing coming up is obviously the WAFCON, right? So your focus is now on there, but partly on there. If you look at our last game against Senegal, we went with a lot of new players because now we've got to expose a lot more players to the game and see what they offer. Do they add value? Don't they add value? A lot of players don't get game time because you have some of the regular players. So now you take that group and you say, okay, these are the players we bring in, give them more game time and see what we can do. Because October, November was a perfect example. If we did not have that core group that we're always looking at, we wouldn't be talking about qualifying and all of those things because we had more than 11 players missing due to injuries, non-availability exams, not teams were playing in the last stages of their playoffs in matches. But that group, I mean, we probably had the youngest backline, Fikile Magama, Lonetemba, Wendy, Garabu Dlamini. But by doing that, we know what they can offer. And we consistently do that because the team has been refreshed over the years without any issues, without any challenges, because we've looked that far ahead, but we've also looked here first before we looked that far ahead. But I mean, when the World Cup was over, I was already putting in players and ages and dates and players that I've scouted. I've been to different tournaments. I've seen 14, 15-year-olds and I'm going, wow, so the WAFCON, yes, but that is not too far. But if you look too far ahead, you sometimes lose focus of what's right here at you right now. And the WAFCON's next year. And probably having 2 WAFCONs in a row now, 25, 26, 2026, and the 2026 one is obviously the qualification for the World Cup. So now you're already getting players ready to be able to play in the next WAFCON when you're doing all of these things. But it's a process because things are going to go wrong along the way like they always do, but the end process is always in mind.
Banyana Banyana is one of the best 16 nations in the world now by ranking, given the last World Cup we're at. You are the reigning champions of WAFCON. Where on the priority list is COSAFA?
COSAFA's always been fantastic. I think COSAFA doesn't realize what they've done for women's football on the Southern African continent.
Because you understand my question is because now when you start rubbing shoulders with the big girls now, you start forgetting where you come from and where you started and what you were focusing on and dominating. So is it still that competition that you feel I have to keep winning this one?
Of course. You don't go to a tournament and you don't want to win it. You want to start and you want to end off with the last game. But other countries are stepping up. So you've got to step up. But we primarily use this tournament to take the best talented players with the next generation and those maybe that are not regulars to give them more game time to see what they have to offer, because the COSAFA Cup is the first step to international football. And if you are struggling there, we don't push you aside. We make sure that we still look at you, because you look at somebody like Ntandi Nonhlanhla from Mamelodi Sundowns. I think she played in 2020. And never played again, but she's back in the national team. So we monitor those things. We don't forget about players. Busisiwe Ndemeni, I think when Coach Vera was here, she got injured. She got injured, right, to ACL. And myself and Coach Shalene went to this one game just before we were doing selections for WAFCON. And a player had withdrawn. And I had gone to the games the whole year. But in that game, she played the role that we were looking for in that specific position. And she went to the World Cup the next year. So we consistently monitor that. But COSAFA Cup has been key for us. Nokolo made a name at COSAFA Cup. Perfect example. You looked at the past COSAFA Cup as well. There were Tramasi twins. There was Nicole. Those players that made their mark. And we use that to give players an opportunity. We use that to see, can they go to the next level? So COSAFA Cup prepared us for the WAFCON in 2018. They brought Cameroon, they brought Uganda, and we beat Cameroon in the final. And when we beat them in the final, we knew we were ready because 2 years prior, They had bullied us off the park. So we were ready. So COSAFA has played a huge role. Look at where Zambia is through COSAFA. There's no shadow of a doubt that COSAFA has played this huge role. You have the U17s that played COSAFA. You have the U20s that played COSAFA. And that experience that they gained there is second to none.
The current state of Banyana Banyana, where are you now? You now know when you're going to begin the defense of your title. Where are you and where is your national team now?
I think the disappointment, first of all, of not qualifying for the Olympic Games was huge. Not just for us, but for everyone. Having missed out on the previous one. But, you look at that disappointment and it's in you for a while and it stays in the back of your mind, but you have to move on. And I think the start for us was to get ready for the next competition, was taking a group to Senegal. And Senegal had done well at the last WAFCON, almost qualified for the World Cup, and we wanted to test the players. And then we had this big gap due to the Olympics, and now getting to play England. This is all part of our preparation. We can't say that we're ready for WAFCON, but we can say that we've started the process.
How far are you from England?
We'll only be ready just before WAFCON, in my opinion, because you've got to peak at certain stages.
Okay.
You can't peak now. If you peak now, then it's not going to happen. And I remember going to the WAFCON in 2022 when we lost to Zambia. I think the country said, what's happening? But we were 2 weeks into preseason and we were playing Algeria, whose players were all currently playing. We only had a few of the overseas-based players that were in season, and now we needed to close that gap. And we took the game. And it was evident that physically, we were not where we should have been, but it brought us to a certain level. And we got the result against Algeria, but we were looking at how we need to be ready by the time WAFCON comes along. We then, I think 5 weeks later, played Netherlands. Still the league hadn't started. But we needed to do something. We lost that game 5-0. It could have been 3-3. Tembi missed a one-on-one, Loko missed a penalty, and then they scored 2 late goals due to us not being able to cope. But we used all of that to make sure that we're ready. So in the beginning stages, it's finding the right mix, giving players an opportunity, finding the right mix between youth and experience, trying different things out, because when you go to a tournament, you've got to have all kinds of scenarios. You've got to have a group of players that if Tembi gets injured, who steps up? Yeah. If this one's suspended, who steps up? You've got to have all of that. And we will definitely be ready for WAFCON, no shadow of a doubt. But we're still in a stage where we're busy getting ready for WAFCON, because everything is a process. Yeah. You can't say that I'm 50% ready now, and then you lose 3-4 games along the way, and people say, how can you be 50% ready? But we will definitely be ready for WAFCON. I think it's easier to win it. I think it's much more difficult to defend it, because now people are coming at you, and I think the mix we need to get right, and we need to be in superb physical condition. And that's what we need to do. But to say that probably 10-15%, because we still have a way to go.
I don't know if you've started thinking about life after this, but what does Desiree Ellis want her legacy to be?
I've spent 21 years of my life with the national team. 10 years as a player, currently 11 years in different coaching capacities, and I've enjoyed every minute. But I think the take that I will take away is that the opportunities that were created through giving others opportunities, they always say, take people with you. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it broader to create opportunities. But I must also say that through the performance of the players, they've created that opportunities for themselves. But always to just be there available with the ear. I have open door policy where you can come in and speak to me about anything. It doesn't have to be football, because players text me all the time. I would always say, how's everyone doing? And then one day players say, how are you doing? So we've got sort of that connection. Yeah. But I think just the legacy of saying to that young girl out there that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how many things don't go your way. But just believe that when the opportunity comes, that you will grab it. Because your dream is valid. Nobody can tell you cannot become the president of this country.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you cannot become who. But whatever you do, make sure that you give your best. I think in the past, people used to say, why am I not getting the job? I just felt I got it when I should have got it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise things would not have happened the way they happened. And for that, I'm truly grateful. But I think the biggest thing for me is my family, because I don't live with my family. So it's the video calls. Yeah. And my mom would just out of the blue say, are you okay? Then I would say, like, why do you ask that question? But mothers have that
instinct.
They have that instinct. And I would just say I'm fine because I don't want her to worry. You know what I mean? But my family plays a huge role, and my faith. Because in this game, it's not easy. In this game, it's not easy. Today, you're the best. Tomorrow, you're the worst of the worst. But in this game, it's not easy. And I can honestly say that, I've enjoyed every minute of this. And when this is all over, I'll enjoy every minute of that as well.
Coach, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. You're an important person in the world now. So such time as, I'm going to take this video and show my kids that I got an opportunity to sit down with one of the greatest to ever do it in this game. Coach, whatever you're going to do next, whether you're going to win WAFCONs, more WAFCONs and a World Cup title, I just want to say thank you for what you've done and for what it is you're still going to do. And I'm pretty sure I speak on behalf of all of South Africa.
My last thing is to say thank you to the fans, because they have been amazing, and to say thank you to the staff that I have, because I don't work alone.
Yeah,
they have been amazing, and the work that they've put in, second to none. But most importantly, to the players, because we can have all these grand plans, but they make us look good. And to obviously SAFA and the sponsors, because without that, we wouldn't play the games we play. So, thank you.
Thank you, Coach. We want you to subscribe. Football Faras on YouTube, on all of our social media platforms. This is a conversation that you're going to absolutely enjoy.